every time I say the word, I kind of hesitate before I say it. But a student held captive and tortured, that's the word I can't get over, for 3 days. It's the news story everyone is talking about. And this morning we will get reactions from the president of the UWI Guild at Mona Omolora.
Omolora?
Yeah, Omolora. Wilson, good morning. Welcome to Smile Jamaica.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming. You've been at UWI, what, 3 years?
I've been at UWI for 3 years now.
What we've been hearing and what we now know about, anything like that ever happened as long as you know that?
No, I've never heard of a situation like this. As a matter of fact, we've been asking persons who've been in the space before us if they've heard of situations like this, and they too are flabbergasted. They've never seen a situation like this. They've heard of, just things not at that extent, but this to everyone is honestly a shock for the decades to come.
We say not to this extent, but have you heard reports of intimate partner violence?
We have heard of reports of intimate partner violence. We've had cases in which we are called because a couple is having an interaction, a heated conversation. There may be a case in which someone hits someone, whether it be the male or the female. But to this level, we've never heard of a situation like that.
What happens when you get that call? What do you do when you hear somebody hit someone?
The first thing we do as students is that we have to call the director of security or one of the persons from campus police or our security force, because at the end of the day, this is a security issue. And so we tell our students that we understand that you want to step in, but if you see it becomes a danger factor right now, you need to call for backup. So one of the biggest things we do if it's happening on campus, the first thing we do is call our securities and call the police, while we try to get the persons to kind of quell out, be a little bit calm, lower down the situation. And of course, there's cases when it's happening on hall, the first persons you call are your resident advisors who are in charge of the different blocks and towers, flats and rooms on the campus. And then of course you call your SSDM, which is the Social Services and Development Manager, the person in charge of that particular
hall. It happens regularly? It happens regularly?
It doesn't happen regularly. That much I can say. That much I know because I've been asking before this even became a matter. We've been asking around.
Even though one of the cultural specificities of this, I want to call it scourge, disease, is that people don't report, oftentimes because of shame.
That's true.
And stigma. But you just outlined how the kind of reporting kind of works, right? So you have the resident advisors and so.
And even when, sorry,
go ahead.
Even in cases like that where students have that fear of reporting because of the fact of feeling embarrassed or just to be judged, because there are a lot of times when persons bring matters to the authorities and it comes off in terms of victim blaming. Why are you here? Why are you doing that? We have also put ourselves forward. I have put myself forward over my tenure as president to say, if there's something you don't want to report to the security, you write it to me. I will bring the report on your behalf. I just need it in writing. If you don't feel comfortable talking to them, at least feel comfortable talking to me.
So you will intervene or mediate?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's go back to the points of defense and the reporting, right? So a lot of folks are kind of shocked about the fact that this young lady could have been in that room for 3 days being tortured as per the reports, and nobody heard anything. There was no escalation. Well, there was no reporting. There was no escalation. How is it? We are wondering how that's possible.
I think right now that is the question that the entire university campus actually have right now. Why exactly did nobody say anything? How comes nobody knew about it? But based on what we know in terms of intimate partner violence, this is something that's one of the negative factors of it, that persons have become so comfortable in seeing altercations between an intimate couple that sometimes they just leave it alone. And so we're at a point right now where we've been asking students, have you heard anything? Did you know something? Did you hear anything? And students consistently say, we didn't hear anything. And it becomes an issue because now we want to know what was happening inside to such an extent that they could not have heard anything. And of course it becomes a concern that students may have heard something and opt not to speak
because those dorms are not huge and they're really
very
stacked,
thin.
so
the walls are very thin. So I'm not sure,
By the way, I know the young man lives on campus. The young lady lives on campus?
Yes, both are residents of the hall that the matter happened.
So is she in a room by herself or?
Currently or overall?
No, the reason I ask is because if nobody don't see her for 3 days and she's on hall, wouldn't somebody say, wait?
So based on the report that we have received, she was living in a double room, but she didn't have a roommate at the moment. So she
But
was
she
there
has
in the room by
friends.
herself.
This is the
She
part
has
that we
friends.
can't understand.
Yeah,
Yes.
that you don't see her for
She has
3
friends,
days
she has
and nobody.
acquaintances. Was she wasn't, she obviously would not have been able to be in class.
Right.
So it raises so many questions.
Concerns.
Yeah.
And again, I say this is one of the factors of intimate partner violence, or just being in a relationship on a whole. There has been in the reports that has been circulating around the media that friends would have called to check up on her, and they were told that she's not feeling well by the alleged perpetrator.
Right.
And so when you're in a relationship and somebody calling and say, oh, she's not feeling well, you would probably take the narrative that, okay, she's genuinely not feeling well for real.
Yeah, but sorry to jump in,
go
but
ahead.
and I hear what you're saying, and you're not one of the investigators, so forgive me. But again, if I don't see her for a couple of days, I mean, is she I going to call or not going to call
I'm not the
Delia?
friend.
I'm not going to call Delia to find out if Simone.
And also,
right.
if you don't see me, you're catching to where I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You understand?
But I mean,
as I
that
say,
is what, yeah, right. That is what it is.
It
I
has
guess.
been a pressing concern for us,
Yeah.
for real, and I think it alerts us now of how aware our students are in the particular space to not notice if someone has gone missing. But when we look at it and realize that a friend was the one who actually reported the incident, it now also comes into question, how long did you know?
And how did that friend know, again, I don't know if you know this, but how did that friend know that, all right, something not right now, make me go report it after 3 days?
I'm not sure. That has not been brought to
Revealed.
yes, we have not been, privy of that information. But what we do know is that she did make the call to say something isn't right, there's something happening, he's holding her captive, and that's when,
How is she, by the way? How is she? I mean, I've seen physical burns, but how is she?
she's a fighter.
It's someone that you know, right?
Yes.
How is she?
She's a fighter, and at this time right now, she's fighting for the best, because we must understand that it was one thing when the media brought the situation to light to Jamaican society. It's a next thing when there's no literal evidence with her face, her body, her burn scars all around. And then
That's been circulating?
Yes, the video has been circulating. And then comes the concern of one, how do we now protect the vulnerability of her, that particular person as a victim? How do we protect her emotional and mental?
So this is my next question for you, right? Because you have facilities on campus. You say the first point of contact when something like this happens is the director of security. In terms of now her mental health,
Right.
and so on, what facilities exist on campus to ensure that she starts to get counseling and that she's okay?
Right, that was one of the first things we actually had a calling for when the matter happened. How will we ensure that she's being taken care of mentally? The university has something that we call the UE counseling unit that facilitates assistance to students in terms of mental health assistance and, of course, getting through trauma that happened within the university space. And that was the first thing we asked for as a guild, to ensure that, ensure that the UE counseling unit is out there and talking to her, and the university has been living to that obligation. So the UE counseling unit has been reaching out, have been having conversation, and of course has been seeing how best they can assist her in terms of what the university can do on their part.
As the guild president, because usually when things happen like that, people say, you have to put this in place to ensure that this don't happen again. What have you done thus far to, I don't know if you can ensure it don't happen again, but what have you done thus far to say, well, maybe we can try to ensure that it don't happen again?
At this point, I'm really hopeful that something like this in particular will not happen again, not just within my university space, but within the university spaces within Jamaica and the Caribbean. And I hope it doesn't give ideas to anyone either, which is why I really and truly hope that our legal system plays its part and plays its part well.
And what you mean by that? What you mean by that?
Like authorities, and of course if you go into justice and being investigated, it's done right. But where I'm at the moment, that what we have asked for is a sensitization seminar to students on the campus, so they're aware of what this is, because I've come to the realization a lot of persons don't know about gender-based violence, a lot of persons don't know about intimate partner violence, and that it is actually something that is wrong. And so we are trying to get sense to understand that when you see things like this, it's not a hush-hush business, it's not a man and woman business either. This is something you really and truly need to talk up about. So we're planning to have a sensitization seminar. We're planning to, well, we've met with administration. We're supposed to meet with them today again to get the information out there about how do we ensure that a situation like this doesn't happen on the basis of how do we keep records of students who access a space and have been removed from a space to not have access to any other spaces like this on campus. We've asked that the university give forward their statement and push forward for the disciplinary procedure that happens within the space. So even though the authorities are taking care of that, what is the university's role in
at
this
its level,
in terms of access to academic freedom in this space since you violated that?
I was just about to say that, you know, as horrible as situations like this are, they are teachable moments, and you know, you can use this as a platform to launch a campaign to sensitize folks on campus. I'm glad you're on that, and I guess we'll listen to hear more about what comes of this. But man, shocking.
Yeah, we pray that she will be.
These are the things she don't want to deal with in her presidency, but that's how it goes.
And I think this is a case that the mental might be even worse than the physical.
Definitely.
You know, she was definitely hurt. I actually saw the video and I couldn't look at it. And she was burnt like all over her body, but ridiculous. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
And hopefully this will work out and we won't ever hear anything like this again.
Really, actually, we're hopeful for that.
Yeah, man. So what you going to be when you leave the university, by the way?
I'm going to be a marketer. That's why you asked what I'm going to leave. And
marketer?
Yeah.
You just want to get rich like Simone, no?
Yeah.
She's the president of the UWI Guild, Omolora Wilson. All right, folks.